The detective pushed the contract across the table and tapped the signature at the bottom. Is that yours, Mr. Walker? I studied the page for 3 seconds. It was my name, my handwriting. Even the slight upward hook at the end of the W looked right, but I had never signed it. No. Detective Raymond Cole leaned back and folded his arms. He was in his late 40s, broad through the shoulders, with the tired expression of a man who had heard too many wealthy people deny obvious crimes. You answered fast. I didn't need more time. This contract authorized the transfer of protected land in Dutchess County to a shell company. That land was later sold to Harbolite Hospitality at 4 times its appraised value. I know what the document says. You were Harbolite's outside counsel. I was one of its outside attorneys. Cole slid another sheet toward me. This email says all legal matters related to the acquisition were handled exclusively by you. The email had been sent by Logan Pierce. Of course it had. I looked at the copied signature again. Whoever had forged it had used page 43 of an old labor settlement. The pressure marks were identical. So it was the microscopic gap between my first and last name. A good forgery fooled people. A lazy forgery copied perfection. Cole watched my face. You recognize something? The signature was lifted from a settlement agreement I executed 18 months ago. His eyebrows moved slightly. You can prove that? Yes. Then why did your wife tell us you handled the transaction? There it was. Not the question, the knife. I rested my hands on the metal table. Did Madison say I signed it? She said you controlled Harbolite's legal work and often finalized documents without involving senior management. That wasn't my question. Cole's jaw tightened. Before he could answer, the door opened. Another detective handed him a folder, then gave me a brief, curious look. Cole read the first page. 3 institutional investors suspended their commitments to Harbolite tonight. I said nothing. 2 lenders also requested an immediate review of the company's debt. Still nothing. He closed the folder. That happened often when an ordinary corporate attorney gets questioned. I almost smiled. Madison had called me ordinary for 6 years. Apparently, the market disagreed. Cole leaned forward. Mr. Walker, if someone forged your signature, now is the time to tell me who. 3 hours earlier, I might have protected her. Not anymore. I looked directly at him. My wife knew I didn't sign that contract. Cole's expression changed. You're saying she knew before tonight? Yes. How? Because she admitted it while throwing me out of our apartment. When I stepped through my front door that evening, my clothes were already packed. 4 black suitcases stood beside the entryway. A cardboard box had been placed on top of them. My law journals, cuff links, passport, and framed photograph of my late father had been thrown together without care. Madison stood near the windows with her arms crossed. Logan Pierce sat in my chair. That detail bothered me more than it should have. The chair had been my father's. Brown leather, cracked along the arms, unfashionable enough that Madison had asked me to replace it 3 times. Logan leaned back in it as if he owned the apartment. He wore a navy suit, no tie, and the patient smile of a man waiting for someone else to accept defeat. I set my briefcase down. Get out of my chair. Logan's smile widened. We need to have a serious conversation. I wasn't speaking to you. Madison exhaled sharply. Adrian, don't start. I looked at her. Why are my clothes packed? Her chin lifted, but her gaze moved toward the suitcases. The media got the land documents this afternoon. I know. The state attorney general's office called. So did the SEC. I know that too. Then you understand why you can't stay here. I glanced at Logan. He spread his hands. This isn't personal. You forged my signature. I'd call that personal. Madison's head snapped toward me. Logan remained still, but his fingers tightened around the chair arm. Be careful, he said. I opened my briefcase, removed a printed access report, and dropped it on the coffee table. The contract was created on a Pierce Meridian device. It was uploaded through your executive account at 11:42 p.m. on March 8th. My signature was inserted 12 days later. Logan stood. You had no authorization to access those servers. I didn't access them. Harbolite's document system generated an automatic conflict alert because my credentials were attached to a file I'd never reviewed. That report contains confidential data. It contains my name on a felony. Madison stepped between us. Enough. I looked at her. She wasn't shocked by the report. She wasn't confused. She was scared, but not of Logan. She was scared I would refuse to cooperate. A cold pressure settled behind my ribs. You already knew. I said. Madison's lips parted. Logan answered for her. We knew there were irregularities. I kept my eyes on my wife. Did you know I didn't sign the contract? She glanced at Logan, and that single movement told me everything. Madison. Her shoulders dropped. I knew. The room went silent. I had spent 6 years cleaning up problems before they reached her desk. When a union threatened to strike at her Boston property, I negotiated until 4 in the morning and let her announce the agreement at breakfast. When a lender tried to seize the Savannah location, I restructured the debt through 3 holding companies while she told the board she had trusted her instincts. I never needed public credit. I thought I had something better. I thought I had a wife who understood what my silence cost. You said the hair. You knew the signature was fake. Yes. And you gave the investigators my name. Her face hardened, as if my calm made her uncomfortable. The company is 4 days from listing. We have more than 800 employees depending on this deal. Then tell the truth. If Logan's firm gets dragged into a criminal investigation, Pierce Meridian pulls its underwriting support. Logan stepped beside her. Harbolite's valuation collapses. The offering dies. Every lender calls its debt. I turned to him. You mean your lenders call your debt? His smile disappeared. Madison shook her head. This is exactly what Logan warned me about. What did he warn you about? That you'd make everything complicated. You said the hair. Certain I had misheard, she continued, gaining confidence from her own anger. You always bury us in restrictions, compliance reviews, backup clauses. You make every agreement so difficult that nobody can move without you. I kept you from signing predatory contracts. You kept the company dependent on you. Logan placed a hand near her back. Not touching, just close enough to show me he could. Adrian doesn't want Harbolite to go public. He said, once you have access to real capital, you won't need him fixing every little problem behind the scenes. Madison looked at me as if she expected a confession. You really believe that? I asked. I believe you're afraid of losing control. I gave a quiet laugh. It sounded wrong even to me. For years, I had rejected offers worth 3 times what Harbolite paid my firm because Madison hated being introduced as the wife of a more successful attorney. I had kept my largest restructuring cases confidential when possible. I had never corrected her when she described me as someone who handled contracts. I had mistaken shrinking myself for protecting her. You think I wanted you weak? I said. You never supported the IPO. I told you Logan's capital was built on high-risk bridge debt. Because you don't like him. Because I read the debt instruments. Logan scoffed. You reviewed incomplete drafts. I reviewed enough to know your fund owes $280 million within 6 months. Madison's face tightened. Logan's voice turned flat. That number is false. No, it's incomplete. It doesn't include the guarantees hidden through your Cayman entities. He took one step toward me. Careful. Stop saying that like you're in a position to threaten me. Madison grabbed my forearm. Adrian, please. I looked down at her hand. For one foolish second, I thought she was finally afraid for me. Then she said, just cooperate until the listing is complete. I pulled my arm free. Define cooperate. She swallowed. You'll tell the investigators that you prepared the contract independently. That would be a confession. It would be temporary. A felony conviction isn't temporary. We'll hire the best criminal defense team in New York. Her eyes flashed. Don't do this. Do what? Ask whether my wife plans to visit me in prison? You're exaggerating. I turned to Logan. What did you tell her? A fine? A suspension? His silence answered me. Madison rubbed her forehead. Once we ring the bell, the company will have resources. We can settle the regulatory issues. We can rebuild your reputation. My reputation? I said we'll fix it. You can't reimburse someone for being framed. Her voice sharpened. I'm trying to save everything we built. No, you're trying to save Logan. This isn't about him. He forged my name. You don't know that. You just admitted you knew I didn't sign it. That doesn't prove Logan did. I watched her defend him after asking me to sacrifice my freedom. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken. Finished. I walked to my briefcase and removed a slim folder. Madison frowned. What is that? I placed it on the table and opened it. The divorce agreement was already marked with yellow tabs. Her face lost color. Logan looked from the papers to me. He had expected anger. Threats. Maybe a punch. Men like him understood emotion because emotion could be used. Preparation frightened them. Madison picked up the first page. You had this drafted? 3 weeks ago. You were planning to leave me? I was planning for the possibility that you would choose him. This is insane. No. Insane was hoping you'd remember I was your husband before you made me your scapegoat. She flipped through the pages with shaking hands. You can't just walk out before the IPO. I looked toward the packed suitcases. You already packed for me. Her mouth tightened. That was temporary. So was my freedom, apparently. Adrian, listen to me. She moved closer and lowered her voice. I know you're hurt, but 4 days from now, Harbalite will be worth billions. After that, we can fix this. Sign. She blinked. What? If you believe the company matters more than the marriage, sign the agreement. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more. Logan rose from my father's chair. Madison, maybe this is for the best. He's trying to use the marriage to pressure you. I looked at him. Sit down before your knees embarrass you. His face darkened. Madison stepped between us again, but this time she faced me. You'll regret this. Probably. You think Whitmore or one of your other clients will protect you after criminal charges. At the mention of Whitmore, Logan's expression shifted. Small, quick, but I saw it. That told me he knew exactly who I was. Madison didn't. I slid a pen toward her. She stared at it for several seconds, then grabbed it. You're being dramatic. She signed the first line. You always do this. You go cold and make everyone else feel guilty. She signed the second. When the offering succeeds, you'll realize I made the only responsible decision. She signed the final page and shoved the folder toward me. We'll talk after the opening bell. I checked the signatures, closed the folder, and placed it in my briefcase. There won't be anything left to discuss. For the first time, real fear moved across her face. Where are you going? I lifted one suitcase. You made that decision too. I had barely reached the lobby when two detectives approached me. One showed his badge. Adrian Walker? Madison stood near the private elevator upstairs, watching through the glass railing. Logan appeared behind her. Neither of them moved. The detective asked me to come voluntarily for questioning. When I looked back, Madison folded her arms around herself. She knew I was innocent. She watched them take me anyway. 6 hours later, Detective Cole left the interview room. My attorney had been delayed because someone had filed an emergency conflict notice against my firm. Logan's work. Obviously, I was released shortly after midnight under an agreement requiring me to surrender my passport pending review. The desk officer returned my phone, wallet, and belt. You've got someone waiting, he said. I expected a junior associate, maybe one of the investors who owed me a favor. I did not expect Helena Whitmore. She stood near the front desk in a black suit, one hand holding her phone, the other wrapped around the handle of my largest suitcase. Two attorneys waited behind her. Her chief of security was speaking quietly to the watch commander. Every officer in the lobby knew who she was. Helena controlled more luxury hotel property than some public companies. She had once removed an entire board before lunch and replaced the CEO before the market closed. She also rarely appeared anywhere without advance notice. Yet there she was, at a police station after midnight, holding my luggage. Her gaze moved over me. She saw the missing tie, the wrinkled shirt, and the red mark around my wrist. Her expression changed. Not much. With Helena, not much was enough. Who put restraints on him? She asked. The desk officer straightened. Ma'am, standard procedure. She turned to one of her attorneys. Find out. I walked toward her. Please don't sue the police department before I get my belt back on. Her eyes met mine. For a moment, the coldness disappeared. Are you hurt? No, that wasn't a legal question. I'm not hurt. She looked at my wrist again. You're bleeding. It's a scratch. Helena reached for my hand, stopped before touching me, then lowered her arm. That hesitation surprised me more than her presence. She was careful with me. I wasn't used to that. How did you know I was here? I asked. 3 funds called me after your name appeared in the investigation. That doesn't explain why you came personally. No one else was qualified. To drive? To make sure you left with someone who believed you. The words hit harder than they should have. I looked past her. Madison didn't call you? No. Her voice turned colder. She released a statement saying you acted independently. I nodded once. Helena studied my face. Then she handed my suitcase to her security chief and took my briefcase from me. I can carry that. I know. Then why are you taking it? Because tonight you don't have to. I should have argued. Instead, I followed her outside. Her car stopped beneath her building in Midtown. I booked a hotel. I said, no. That sounded less like an opinion and more like a command. It was meant to. Helena. She looked at me across the back seat. You were accused of hotel fraud, abandoned at a police station, and publicly blamed by your wife. Putting you in one of my hotels would be in poor taste. Despite everything, I laughed. A small smile touched her mouth before she looked away. It was the first time I had seen Helena Whitmore look pleased with herself. At the penthouse, she dismissed the staff. "You don't have to send everyone home." I said. "I didn't. I just watched 6 people leave. They have other residences. You sent your staff to sleep somewhere else?" Her expression remained serious. "You've had enough strangers watching you tonight." She removed her jacket, rolled up the sleeves of her white blouse, and walked into the kitchen. I followed. "What are you doing?" "Making dinner." I checked the time. "It's 1 in the morning. You didn't eat." "How do you know?" "You get quieter when you haven't eaten." I leaned against the counter. "You've been tracking my eating habits?" She opened a cabinet too quickly, nearly hit herself with the door, and caught it with one hand. "I observe all valuable assets." "Is that what I am?" Her back stayed turned. "No." The answer came too softly. She filled a pot with water, set it on the stove, and stared at the controls as if they were part of a hostile acquisition. I crossed my arms. "When was the last time you cooked?" "I've supervised restaurants." "That wasn't my question." She gave me a warning look. I held up both hands. 20 minutes later, she placed a bowl of spaghetti in front of me. The noodles were too soft. The sauce was too salty. One side of the garlic bread was black. Helena sat across from me with perfect posture. "Eat." I took a bite. She watched my face with the concentration of a jury waiting for a verdict. "Is this dinner?" I asked. "Or are you trying to finish what Logan started?" Her eyes narrowed. "It's dinner." "You sound defensive." "I am never defensive. The pasta is." She stared at me for 2 seconds. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was quiet and brief, but real. The tension in my chest loosened. I ate another bite. "It's good." "You're lying." "Yes." Her lips curved again. After I finished, I stood and reached for my coat. Helena immediately placed her palm over it. "You're staying. I appreciate everything you did tonight." That sentence usually comes before a bad decision. "I booked a room downtown." "Cancel it." "I shouldn't stay here." "Why?" I met her gaze. "Because I signed divorce papers a few hours ago, and you came to the police station personally." Her fingers remained on my coat. For the first time that night, she looked uncertain. Then she walked around the sofa and stopped in front of me. She reached up and loosened my collar. Her knuckles brushed my throat as she opened the top button of my shirt. The gesture was confident. Her hand was not. Her fingers trembled. "Your collar was too tight," she said. "Was it?" "Yes." Her face was close enough that I could see color spreading across her cheeks. Helena Whitmore had stared down senators, union leaders, and hostile boards without blinking. Now she could barely look me in the eye. "Helena." She finally raised her gaze. "Stay tonight." My pulse shifted. "I just decided to end my marriage." "I know. I'm not ready for anything else." "I know that too." Her voice softened. "That's why I'm only asking you to stay." She stepped back, giving me space, even though every part of her expression said she didn't want to. "The guest room is yours. The door locks. I won't come in." I studied her. "Why are you doing this?" She folded her arms. "Rebuilding the armor. Because tomorrow will be worse." "Comforting." "And because you shouldn't be alone when it is." Something warm and painful moved through me. I picked up my coat. Her face fell for half a second. Then I placed it back on the sofa. "All right." She blinked. "All right, I'll stay." The relief in her eyes appeared before she could hide it. She cleared her throat. "Good." "Is that another corporate statement?" "It's a final decision." I moved toward the hallway, then looked back. "Helena." "Yes." "Thank you for dinner." Her mouth tightened as if she knew I was teasing her. "You will eat the leftovers tomorrow." "There are leftovers?" "There are always consequences." "Adrian." I smiled for the first time since Madison signed the divorce agreement. Later, unable to sleep, I stepped into the hallway. A light was on beneath Helena's study door. I heard her voice inside. "Pull every dead instrument connected to Pierce Meridian, domestic and offshore." One of her attorneys said something I couldn't make out. Helena answered, "I don't care what it costs." A pause. Then the attorney asked, "How far are you prepared to go for Mr. Walker?" Her response came without hesitation. "All the way." I stood outside the door, silent. A few seconds later, a document slid from the printer beside the study. I picked it up. It was a preliminary capital exposure report for Pierce Meridian. The first page showed hundreds of millions in undisclosed obligations. The second showed short positions tied to Harbolite's future stock. Logan wasn't simply using Madison to remove me. He was preparing to let her company go public, crash its value, and take every hotel she owned. I looked toward the closed study door. Madison had thrown me out because she believed Logan could give her an empire. Helena had brought me home because she understood he was about to steal it. And for the first time that night, I stopped thinking about what I had lost. I started thinking about what I was going to expose. I woke to the smell of burned coffee. For a few seconds, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the unfamiliar ceiling, the folded suit on the chair, and the clean bandage wrapped around my wrist. I sat up. I hadn't put that bandage there. The guest room door was partly open. Helena stood in the hallway with a coffee mug in each hand. She had changed into a gray blouse and black slacks, but her hair was tied back less carefully than usual. Her eyes went to the bandage. "You were awake when I did that." "I was." "You objected twice." "I don't remember." "You called antiseptic an unnecessary acquisition expense." "That sounds like me." She walked in and held out one of the mugs. I took a sip. It was terrible. I looked at her. She lifted her chin. "What?" "You own 17 coffee plantations through Whitmore suppliers." 14. "And this is what you made?" "The machine is unnecessarily complicated. It has one button. It has several lights." I took another sip. Her mouth twitched. "You don't have to drink it. You cooked for me. You treated my wrist. Now you've made coffee. I'm beginning to regret establishing a pattern." "You should. Your shareholders may become concerned." She turned toward the door, but I caught the faint color rising near her ears. "Helena." She stopped. "Thank you." Her shoulders relaxed. "You're welcome." My phone began vibrating on the nightstand. 38 missed calls. Most were from reporters, partners at my law firm, and Harbolite investors. Madison had called twice. Logan's attorney had sent a formal notice ordering me to preserve all company records. There was also a link from my assistant, Noah Bennett. The headline read, "Harbolite CEO claims husband acted alone in land transaction." I opened the article. Madison's statement was only 4 paragraphs long. She expressed shock, promised cooperation, and described me as an external attorney who had exercised unusually broad discretion. She never directly accused me of forging the document. She didn't need to. Helena watched my face. What did she say? That she trusted me too much. Helena held out her hand. I gave her the phone. She read the statement without moving. By the final paragraph, her expression had gone completely still. That was the version of Helena that frightened billionaires. "She's implying you abused your position. She's leaving herself room to deny it later." "She won't need room." Helena handed the phone back and reached for hers. "What are you doing?" "Calling Grant Hollis." Grant was Whitmore's chief operating officer. "What for?" "To terminate every management contract Harbolite has with us." "No." Her thumb stopped above the screen. "Adrian, no cancel contracts. No supplier pressure. No threats to their lenders. She publicly blamed you for a crime. And if you punish her company this morning, Logan will tell the press I joined Whitmore to retaliate." "I don't care what Logan tells the press." "I do." She stared at me. I stood and buttoned my shirt. "I need the evidence to destroy his story before you use your power. Otherwise, he gets to call himself a victim of the Whitmore empire. He tried to send you to prison." "I know. Your wife helped him." "I know that too." Helena's jaw tightened. "Then why are you still protecting her?" "I'm not protecting Madison. It looks remarkably similar. I'm protecting the truth from being buried under your last name." That hit her. She lowered the phone. For a moment, I expected anger. Instead, she looked away and rubbed her thumb against the side of the mug. "People usually ask me to use my name. I'm not people." "No." Her gaze returned to mine. "You've always been inconvenient. I'll put that on my resume." "You won't need a resume." Before I could ask what she meant, her phone rang. She answered. "Yes." A man spoke rapidly on the other end. Helena listened, then looked at me. "How many cameras?" She paused. "Move it to the main ballroom." 10:30. She ended the call. "What happens at 10:30? I asked. "You're coming to work." "I already have a job. Your firm placed you on administrative leave 20 minutes ago." I checked my email. She was right. The managing partner's message was polite, regretful, and full of references to risk management policy. After 12 years and hundreds of millions of dollars in recovered assets, they had removed my system access before asking for my side. Helena watched me read it. "I'm sorry," she said. "You didn't fire me." "No, I would have done it in person." Comforting. She walked to the closet and removed a dark blue suit. It was my size. I looked from the suit to her. "How long has that been here?" Her hand froze on the hanger. "It belongs to a guest." "A guest with 34-inch sleeves and my tailor's label?" She glanced at the inside collar. as if the label had betrayed her. I had it made after the Whitmore Continental hearing. That was 4 years ago. You spilled coffee on your jacket, so you ordered a replacement and kept it in your apartment for 4 years? It was practical. You've moved twice since then. Her expression hardened defensively. Do you want the suit or not? I took it from her. Our definitions of practical are very different. Put it on. We're late. For what? She walked out without answering. Whitmore Grand's main ballroom held more than 100 reporters by the time we arrived. I stopped near the side entrance. What did you do? Helena handed her coat to an assistant. I scheduled a press conference. I can see that. Why? To announce a leadership appointment. I looked at her. Whose? She met my eyes with complete composure. Yours. No. Her brows rose slightly. No. You don't announce executive appointments without discussing them with the executive. I discussed it with the board. That isn't what I said. The vote was unanimous. Helena. She moved closer and lowered her voice. Your firm abandoned you before breakfast. Harbalite is calling you a rogue attorney. Every reporter in that room expects to see you hide. That doesn't mean I take a job out of gratitude. I would never hire you out of gratitude. Her answer came so quickly that I paused. She continued more quietly. I'm hiring you because Whitmore needs you. You already have a general counsel. You won't be general counsel. What exactly am I? Chief Legal and Asset Strategy Officer. I stared at her. That role didn't exist at Whitmore. It would place me over acquisitions, restructuring, regulatory risk, and global asset strategy. Half the executive committee would report to me on major transactions. You created a position. I corrected an organizational weakness. When? Last night, between making pasta and bandaging my wrist, the pasta required very little intellectual effort. That explains the result. Her lips tightened, fighting a smile. Then she stepped even closer. If you don't want it, say no after the press conference. That's not how consent works. I'm aware. Are you? A reporter near the entrance noticed us. Cameras began turning. Helena's confidence flickered for 1 second. Not because of the press, because I was still standing close to her. I needed to give the market an answer before Logan defined you. She said, you can resign publicly in 10 minutes if you hate me. I don't hate you. Her eyes softened. Then the cameras flashed, and the softness disappeared behind the Whitmore mask. Good, she said. That would complicate the compensation package. She walked toward the stage. I followed, not because she had ordered me to, because she was right. Logan had spent the morning telling the world what I was. It was time I answered. Helena stood behind the podium. Thank you for coming on short notice. The room quieted immediately. At 8 this morning, the board of Whitmore Grand Hotels unanimously approved the appointment of Adrian Walker as Chief Legal and Asset Strategy Officer. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions before she finished. Helena raised one hand. Silence returned. Mr. Walker will oversee global restructuring, strategic acquisitions, regulatory risk, and asset protection. Whitmore will also fund his complete legal defense concerning the Harbalite investigation. A reporter from Bloomberg called out, Ms. Whitmore, he's under criminal investigation. Why put him in a senior executive position? Helena's expression didn't change. Because an allegation is not evidence. Harbalite says he acted without authorization. Harbalite's statement was drafted to create an implication without accepting responsibility for the accusation. The reporter blinked. Helena added, I dislike cowardly wording. Several people laughed nervously. Another reporter stood. Are you saying Madison Clark is lying? I'm saying Adrian Walker is the most ethical restructuring attorney I have encountered in my career. The answer traveled through the room like an electric current. A financial correspondent raised her hand. Mr. Walker has advised Whitmore before, correct? Yes. In what capacity? Helena glanced at me. 4 years ago, Whitmore faced an attempted hostile acquisition. 11 firms recommended abandoning 3,000 employees, wiping out minority shareholders, and selling our historic properties separately. I remembered that case. I also remembered Helena sitting across from me during a 14-hour negotiation, refusing to show exhaustion while every advisor told her she had to choose between her company and her people. Helena continued. Adrian designed the only structure that preserved the company, protected the pension fund, and produced a return for shareholders. A reporter looked toward me. Mr. Walker, why wasn't your role public? Confidentiality agreement. I said. Helena's gaze lingered on me. He never asked for recognition. Madison had once told a magazine that my greatest contribution to Harbolite was keeping the paperwork organized. Hearing Helena describe what I actually did felt strange, not flattering, exposing. A reporter near the front called out, "Ms. Whitmore, there are rumors you personally went to the police station last night. Is that true?" Her press secretary visibly tensed. Helena didn't. "Yes. Why didn't you send an attorney?" "I did." "Then why did you go?" Helena's hand tightened slightly around the edge of the podium. I saw the moment she considered a safe answer. She didn't choose it, because he should not have been alone. The room became louder. Another voice rose above the others. "Are you and Mr. Walker personally involved?" Helena's expression cooled. "No." The answer was accurate. It still landed harder than I expected. Then she continued, "But he is the man I chose to protect." The entire ballroom went silent. Helena looked directly into the cameras. "Anyone who has a problem with that may bring it to me." I watched the woman who had burned pasta, fought with a coffee machine, and kept a suit in my size for 4 years, openly challenge every person trying to destroy me. Something shifted inside my chest. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was the first time in years I felt seen without having to prove I deserved it. The questions exploded again. Helena stepped away from the podium. As soon as we reached the private hallway, she kept walking. "Helena." She didn't stop. I followed her past 2 conference rooms. "Helena, I have a meeting." "With whom?" "The executive committee." "They're still in the ballroom." "I have another executive committee." She entered her office and tried to shut the door. I caught it with my hand. She glared at me. "This is inappropriate." "Which part?" "Following my new boss, or asking why she publicly claimed me like disputed hotel property." "I did not claim you. You called me the man you chose to protect." It was a corporate statement. Most corporate statements don't sound like wedding vows. Color rushed into her face. She turned away and walked behind her desk. Reporters respond to concise language. I noticed. There was no romantic implication. "You came to the police station, took me home, cooked dinner, bandaged me while I slept, kept a custom suit for 4 years, and told national television I was your chosen man. Chosen to protect. Important distinction." "It is." She picked up a folder and opened it. It was upside down. I leaned against her desk. "Is this your emergency meeting?" "I'm reviewing financial records." Upside down. She looked at the folder, closed it, and pushed it toward me. "Read this instead." I opened it. Pierce Meridian's preliminary debt map filled the first page. The numbers were worse than the report I had seen outside her study. Logan's funds carried at least $312 million in short-term obligations. Several loans were secured through layered entities that shared directors and mailing addresses. I straightened. "Who found the Nevada guarantor?" "Our compliance team." "This entity doesn't appear in the offering memorandum." "No." I turned another page. There were transfers from an investment vehicle in Delaware to a consulting firm in the Cayman Islands. Then back to a New York credit facility. "He's recycling borrowed money to make the fund look liquid." Helena nodded. "And using the same assets as collateral more than once." I looked at her. "This is enough to kill the IPO. It's enough for me to kill it." "Not yet." Her eyes narrowed. "We already discussed this. We have a map, not proof of intent. He concealed debt. That proves securities violations. It doesn't prove why he chose Harbolite. Does the reason matter? It matters if we want Madison's board to cooperate." Helena folded her arms. "You still think she can be persuaded?" "I think people will forgive bad judgment faster than criminal intent. If she sees what Logan is doing before the listing, she may turn over the documents. And if she doesn't, then she chooses the consequences with full knowledge." Helena looked down at the desk. "What she did last night wasn't enough." "For me?" "Yes." My voice came out colder than I intended. "For the government. We need more." She glanced at me. "You separate those things very cleanly." "It's my job." "No. It's how you survive." I didn't answer. Helena came around the desk. Her fingers hovered near my bandaged wrist again. This time, she touched it, lightly. "You don't have to perform competence every second you're with me." I looked at her hand around mine. "Is that in my employment contract?" "It can be. At a lunch break first." Her head lifted. "You haven't eaten." That wasn't an invitation to interrogate me. It was an admission. She released my wrist and pressed a button on her desk. Her assistant answered. "Cancel my lunch." I frowned. "You don't have to cancel it." "I'm not." She spoke into the intercom. "Move lunch here." 2 settings. The assistant paused. "From Le Bernardine?" Helena glanced at me. "No. Bring the leftover pasta from my apartment." I stared at her. She ended the call. You're joking. You thanked me for it. That was basic courtesy. You ate all of it. I had been in police custody for 6 hours. Her smile appeared slowly. Then hunger has already established the appropriate standard. You're enjoying this. Immensely. The distance between us had become small without either of us moving closer. Her eyes dropped briefly to my mouth. Then she stepped back and adjusted the cuff of her blouse. The moment passed, but not completely. Come on, she said. Where? Your office. I have an office already. You have a floor. Of course I do. She led me down the private corridor. My new office was larger than the entire Manhattan branch of some law firms. A legal team waited inside, along with compliance officers, forensic accountants, and a banking specialist. No one looked uncertain about my authority. Grant Hollis approached and held out his hand. Welcome to Whitmore. Adrian, you approve this without speaking to me? He glanced at Helena. She can be persuasive. She threatened to replace you? Only twice. Helena looked offended. It was once. Grant lowered his voice. The second was implied. I shook his hand. Pull every public lien. UCC filing. Creditor action. An offshore disclosure connected to Pierce Meridian for the last 5 years. A forensic accountant opened her laptop. What are we looking for? Duplicated collateral. Circular transfers. And any short position tied to Harbolite. Helena stood beside me. And find out who benefits when the offering fails. I looked at her. Exactly. For the next 6 hours, we worked through hundreds of entities. The more we uncovered, the clearer Logan's structure became. Pierce Meridian had promised to inject $150 million into Harbolite before the listing. In reality, most of that money came from loans due shortly after the IPO. Once Harbolite raised public funds, Logan's management company could collect enormous advisory fees. Then the concealed land scandal would trigger a regulatory investigation. Harbolite's stock would collapse. Logan would profit from the short position, call the company's debt, and seize its hotels through the collateral agreements Madison had signed. He wasn't taking Harbolite public. He was walking it to an execution. At 7, Grant entered with another report. We found a private side letter. I took it. The agreement granted Pierce Meridian the right to appoint a majority of Harbolite's board if its stock remained below a specified price for 20 consecutive trading days. Madison signed this? I asked. Grant nodded. She may not have understood the trigger. She should have had counsel review it. Every person in the room became very interested in their screens. They all knew who Harbolite's counsel had been. Helena's voice turned sharp. Logan removed Adrian from every contract 3 months ago. I looked at her. How do you know that? I reviewed the engagement notices. When? While you were sleeping. You don't sleep? Not when people are framing you. The legal team pretended not to hear. I lowered my voice. You can't keep doing that. Doing what? Taking every attack against me personally. Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened around her pen. I don't know how else to take it. The room went quiet. Grant cleared his throat. We can finish the entity chart outside. Everyone gathered their files and left with suspicious speed. When the door closed, Helena turned toward the window. I didn't mean to say that. Which part? She kept her back to me. The part they heard. I walked closer. They already watched the press conference. That was different. How? I had a podium. I laughed. She looked over her shoulder. Annoyed. You find my discomfort entertaining. A little. That's unprofessional. You hired me 12 hours ago. Fire me. Her eyes held mine. Never. The word came too fast and too honestly. Neither of us moved. I reached for her hand, then stopped before touching it, the same way she had stopped at the police station. Her gaze dropped to the space between our hands. I let her decide. After a moment, she turned her palm upward. I placed my hand in hers. Her fingers closed around mine. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a promise. It was more intimate than either would have been. You don't have to fight every battle for me. I said. I know. You don't sound convinced. I'm willing to negotiate. Progress. Her thumb brushed once across my knuckles. Then my phone rang. Madison. Helena saw the name. Her hand went still, but she didn't release mine. I answered. What do you want? Madison's breathing sounded uneven. I saw the press conference. I assumed you would. You joined Whitmore? Yes. You didn't even discuss it with me. I looked at our joined hands. You signed divorce papers before I was taken to the station. They haven't been filed. They were filed at 9 this morning. Silence. Then Madison said, Helena is using you. Helena's expression cooled, but she remained quiet. For what? To attack Harbolite. She's always wanted our New York properties. She had 3 opportunities to buy them. She wants them cheaper. No. Logan does. Madison exhaled sharply. You're still obsessed with blaming him. I found the side letter. Her silence told me she knew which one. The board control trigger. I said, the one that activates if your stock stays below $11. Logan explained that. Did he explain his short position? She didn't answer. I continued. Did he explain that Pierce Meridian's investment money is borrowed against the same properties he plans to seize? You're trying to scare me. I'm giving you an opportunity. To do what? Meet me tomorrow. Alone. Bring every financing amendment Logan asked you to sign. I'm not betraying my company. Your company is already being betrayed. Helena watched my face carefully. Madison's voice softened. Adrian, this isn't you. What isn't? Working for another woman to destroy me. Helena tried to pull her hand away. I tightened my fingers around hers. She looked at me, surprised. I'm not trying to destroy you, I told Madison. I'm trying to show you what Logan is doing before the opening bell. And what do you want in return? The truth. About the land contract? Yes. Madison went quiet. I waited. When she spoke again, her voice had hardened. I won't let you use my company to clear your reputation. My grip on Helena's hand became tighter. You used my reputation to save your company. That's not the same. No. It's worse. She ended the call. I lowered the phone. Helena stayed beside me. She didn't say she had warned me. She didn't demand that I stop giving Madison chances. She simply squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, she said. I looked at her. For what? That part of you still hoped she'd choose differently. I had no defense against the gentleness in her voice. I don't know why I did. Because you loved her. Past tense. Helena's eyes searched mine. That isn't my decision to make. She slowly released my hand. The absence of her touch felt immediate. She turned toward the files. I'll have a car take you home. You're home? Her back stiffened. The guest room remains available. For how long? She faced me. Cautious now. As long as you need it. I took a step closer, and if I stop needing it, the color returned to her cheeks. Then you'll move out. That sounded almost disappointed. It was logistical, of course. She tried to look annoyed, but her lips betrayed her. I picked up the side letter. We need more than debt filings. We need internal intent. Helena nodded, grateful for the safer subject. I have someone tracing communications with the short seller. Good. And Adrian? Yes. She folded her arms, returning to her usual commanding posture. You're still eating the pasta. I thought emotional support came without retaliation. You thought wrong. The next morning, the encrypted email arrived. It had been recovered from a Pierce Meridian backup server through a lawful disclosure request tied to one of Whitmore's existing investments. Logan had written it to his managing partner. Madison will sign anything if she believes Adrian is trying to hold her back. Once he's gone, she'll hand us the company herself. Below it was an attachment, a sworn statement bearing Madison's signature. She had confirmed that I alone controlled the disputed legal work, and that she had no knowledge of irregularities in the land purchase. The metadata showed she had signed it 2 days before I came home, before my clothes were packed, before she looked me in the eye and admitted she knew I was innocent. Helena read the statement beside me. Her face went pale with anger. How much more proof do you need? She asked. What does she have to do before you stop protecting her? I closed the file. I'm not protecting her. Then what are you doing? I looked at the date of Harbolite's opening bell ceremony. 48 hours. I'm making sure that when she finally tells the truth, she does it in front of everyone she betrayed me to impress. Helena studied me for a long moment. Then she stepped close and straightened my tie. Her movements were careful, almost tender. You're frightening when you're calm. She murmured. I've been told. Her fingers remained against the knot. Should I be worried? Not unless you forged my signature. I did keep a suit in your size for 4 years. That remains suspicious. She smiled, but her eyes stayed on mine. I'm glad you wore it. The sweetness in her voice caught me off guard. I covered her hand with mine. I'm glad you kept it. Her cheeks turned pink. She withdrew her hand and walked toward the door with unnecessary speed. We have work to do. Helena. She stopped without turning. You can't hide from me in your own office forever. I'm not hiding. Then why are you facing the wall? She stood silent for 2 seconds. Because you're becoming distracting. Then she opened the door and left me alone with the evidence. The coming war. And the first real smile I had worn in years. The court order arrived before sunrise. Helena was asleep on the conference room couch with her head resting against the armrest. Her shoes sat beside the table. and her jacket covered my shoulders. At some point during the night, I had fallen asleep in my chair. At some point after that, she had covered me and taken the couch instead. Grant Hollis entered carrying a red folder. He looked at Helena, then at me. I can come back. She's awake, Helena said without opening her eyes. Grant stopped. Helena sat up, smoothed her hair with one hand, and immediately recovered the expression she used in board meetings. What happened? Grant placed the folder in front of me. Pierce Meridian filed for an emergency injunction at 4:13 this morning. I opened it. Logan accused me of stealing Harbolite's confidential information during my marriage, transferring it to Whitmore, and using it to interfere with the IPO. Attached to the filing were server logs showing my credentials accessing Harbolite's financing records. The timestamps covered 6 months. Helena came to my side and leaned over the pages. These are false. Some are real. She turned toward me. I pointed to 3 entries. I accessed those files while I was still Harbolite's outside counsel. The others were added later. Grant nodded. Their expert claims the logs prove a continuous pattern. What does the order restrict? Helena asked. I turned to the final page. The judge temporarily barred me from possessing or reviewing Harbolite's internal documents. I also can't participate in any acquisition or financing decision involving the company until the hearing. Helena took the folder from my hand. They want you removed from the investigation. They want to force us to rely only on public records. Grant lowered his voice. There's more. He placed a tablet on the table. Madison stood behind a podium on the screen. Logan was beside her. A banner at the bottom read, Harbolite CEO addresses alleged corporate espionage. Helena's fingers tightened around the tablet. Turn it off. No, I said. She looked at me. I need to hear what Madison says. You already know. I know what she signed in private. I want to know what she's willing to say in public. Grant pressed play. Madison looked tired, but carefully so. Her makeup softened the shadows beneath her eyes. Her white suit made her appear composed and vulnerable at the same time. Logan stood one step behind her, close enough to appear supportive without taking attention away from her. A reporter asked, Ms. Clark, did your husband have unrestricted access to Harbolite's confidential files? Madison hesitated. That pause was calculated. Yes. My throat tightened. She continued. Adrian insisted on controlling most of our legal and financial documents. At the time, I believe he was protecting the company. Another reporter called out, Are you saying he controlled you personally? Madison gripped the podium. My marriage was complicated. Helena made a sharp movement toward the screen. I caught her wrist. Wait. Madison lowered her gaze. Adrian often told me I didn't understand the risks I was taking. He reviewed contracts without explaining them. He discouraged investors he didn't approve of. Every sentence contained enough truth to support the lie. I had warned her about risks. I had reviewed contracts she refused to read. I had discouraged investors whose money came with predatory terms. Madison turned years of protection into evidence of control. A reporter asked, Did he ever threaten you? She looked into the camera. He made it clear Harbolite wouldn't survive without him. I remembered the actual conversation. Madison had been crying after a lender threatened foreclosure on the Savannah property. I had held her while she told me she was a failure. I had said, You don't have to solve this alone. I'm not going anywhere. She had turned that promise into a threat. Another reporter raised his hand. Do you believe Mr. Walker joined Whitmore to sabotage the IPO? Madison's expression trembled. For 1 second, I thought she might stop. Then Logan placed his hand against the small of her back. She straightened. I believe Adrian has always been afraid of what would happen if I no longer needed him. Grant shut off the tablet. No one spoke. Helena pulled her wrist from my hand and walked toward the wall phone. Get me Naomi Feld. Naomi was Whitmore's general counsel. What are you doing? I asked, declaring Harbolite in breach of every Whitmore management and licensing agreement. Helena, she lifted the receiver. I crossed the room and pressed the disconnect button. Her eyes flashed. Move your hand. No. She accused you of abusing her. I heard her. She turned your marriage into a weapon. I heard that too. Then stop preventing me from responding. You aren't responding. You're retaliating. Yes. The honesty in her voice almost made me smile. She stepped closer. I can freeze their reservation platform by noon. Their payment processor will review every location. Their insurers will demand new compliance disclosures. They won't reach the opening bell. And Logan will say Madison was right. I don't care. I do. Why? Because I don't want the truth to be that Helena Whitmore destroyed my wife's company for me. Former wife. The divorce isn't final. Her face changed. Not anger this time. Pain. Small enough that anyone else would have missed it. I lowered my voice. That was a legal fact, not an emotional one. Helena looked away. You don't owe me an explanation. I think I do. No. She folded her arms. You owe yourself an honest answer. About what? Whether you're protecting the case or protecting Madison. I stared at her. She didn't soften the question. That was one of the things I had come to value about her. Helena never confused kindness with dishonesty. I'm protecting the case, I said, and if she walks into this building right now and apologizes, I won't go back. The answer came without hesitation. Helena's shoulders loosened. I continued, but I'm not going to use your power to punish her because I'm angry. She deserves punishment. She deserves consequences. What's the difference? Punishment is something we choose for her. Consequences are what happen when the truth becomes public. Helena studied my face. Then she placed the phone back in its cradle. One day, she said, you're going to let me ruin someone for you. That's a disturbing relationship goal. Her mouth twitched. I have modest needs. You own a hotel in Monaco. It's small. It has a private marina. The marina was already there. Grant cleared his throat from the other side of the table. I'm going to pretend the emergency injunction requires me to leave. He gathered his folders. Grant, I said. He stopped at the door. Have Naomi challenge the server logs. I'll withdraw from reviewing Harbolite's internal documents until the hearing. Helena turned sharply. You're giving Logan what he wants. Only what he thinks he wants. After Grant left, Helena narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? The injunction restricts Harbolite's confidential records. It doesn't restrict public filings, bank compliance reports, court-ordered evidence, or documents from Pierce Meridian's counterparties. You already have another route. I have 3. Her expression changed from anger to reluctant approval. You let me threaten to collapse their company before telling me? I wanted to see how far you'd go. All the way. I remember. She held my gaze. The words carried more than the investigation now. I looked away first. That seemed to please her. You're blushing, she said. I'm tired. You criticized that excuse when I used it. I'm management. We have different standards. She moved close enough to straighten the collar of my shirt. You've been management for 2 days. I'm adapting quickly. Her fingers brushed my neck. Neither of us moved. Then she stepped back. Get some sleep. So you can steal my chair again? I took the couch. You gave me your jacket. You were cold. I wasn't. You were shivering. I had just watched my wife accuse me of emotional abuse on national television. Helena's teasing disappeared. She reached for my hand, then paused. I turned my palm upward. Her fingers slid between mine. The gesture had become easier since the first time, but not casual. Nothing about Helena felt casual. I'm sorry, she said. You didn't do it. I know. Then stop apologizing for her. I'm apologizing because I can't make it hurt less. I tightened my hand around hers. You already did. Her eyes lifted to mine. For several seconds, the injunction, the IPO, and the reporters stopped existing. Then Noah Bennett rushed into the room without knocking. He froze when he saw our joined hands. Should I? No. Helena said. Yes. I said at the same time. Noah looked between us. I'll choose the answer that doesn't get me fired. Helena released my hand. Her cheeks had turned pink, but her tone remained cold. You're not employed by Whitmore. Noah held up a flash drive. Not yet. He placed it on the table. I found the source of the altered server logs. I inserted the drive into an isolated laptop. Noah had compared Harbolite's live access records with backup logs retained by a third-party cybersecurity vendor. The entries accusing you of accessing the IPO files were added 48 hours ago. He said, the vendor's original backups don't contain them. Can the vendor authenticate the backups? They already did. Helena leaned toward the screen. Then Logan's team fabricated evidence for a federal court filing. Yes, that's obstruction and fraud on the court. I added, but we don't reveal it yet. Noah frowned. Why not? Because Logan believes the injunction worked. I want him confident. Helena watched me. You're going to let him proceed with the IPO. I'm going to let him think he can. By noon, I had divided the investigation into 3 teams. Whitmore's compliance department traced Pierce Meridian's loans through public UCC filings and regulatory disclosures. Naomi obtained a preservation order covering the original Harbolite server logs. Grant contacted lenders whose collateral had apparently been pledged more than once. I handled the last piece myself. Madison's voice. Months earlier, Harbalite had installed a smart conference system in its executive offices. The system recorded meetings for transcription and automatically backed them up for legal compliance. I had been the authorized administrator when it was installed. The injunction prevented me from retrieving the recordings directly. It did not prevent a court-appointed examiner from preserving them. Naomi filed the motion. The judge approved it within 2 hours. At 4:30, a forensic specialist entered my office carrying an encrypted drive. We recovered 27 meetings, she said. Most were routine. 3 mentioned the land transaction. Helena stood behind me as I put on the headphones. The first recording contained Logan explaining the shell company structure. Madison asked whether the inflated purchase price would cause regulatory problems. Logan told her the paperwork would be handled. The second meeting was worse. Madison said, "Adrian will never approve this." Logan answered, "That's why Adrian can't be involved." She asked, "How do we explain his name on the legal review?" Logan laughed. "We don't explain it. We let the signature explain itself." Helena's hand settled on the back of my chair. "Keep going," I said. The third recording began 2 days before Madison signed the sworn statement. Her voice sounded tense. "What happens to Adrian if we put his name on it?" Logan answered, "A fine, maybe a suspension. And if prosecutors get involved, he'll make a deal. Men like Adrian always do. He'll take the blame because he thinks protecting you makes him noble." There was a long silence. I could hear Madison breathing. Then she said, "He can't go to prison. He won't. You promise?" "Madison, do you want the company or not?" Another silence. Then my wife said the words that ended whatever remained between us. "Do it. The company comes first." The recording stopped. I removed the headphones. Helena's hand was still on my chair. No one in the office spoke. The forensic specialist quietly excused herself. The door closed. Helena walked around the desk and crouched in front of me. She didn't tell me she had been right. She didn't insult Madison. She simply looked at me. I hated the pity I had seen from reporters and former colleagues. There was none in Helena's face. Only anger on my behalf. Only concern. "Say something," I told her. "What do you want me to say?" That she was manipulated. That Logan pressured her. "Do you believe that?" "No." "Then I won't lie to you." I leaned back and closed my eyes. I gave her every chance. "I know. I warned her about him. I know." I thought if she saw the structure. "Adrian." I opened my eyes. Helena placed both hands over mine. "You don't have to prove you tried hard enough. That's what husbands do. That's what you did." The past tense hurt. It also freed something in me. Helena's thumbs moved slowly across my knuckles. She made her choice. She said, "You're allowed to make yours." I looked at her. "What choice do you think I should make?" Her face softened, but she didn't answer immediately. "The one that lets you respect yourself tomorrow, not the one that chooses you." A faint blush appeared across her cheeks. "No, you don't want me to choose you?" Her hands became still. "That isn't what I said." It sounded like it. She started to stand. I caught her wrist. Helena froze. I pulled gently, and she stopped between my knees. Her breathing changed. "You've been honest with me," I said. "Be honest now." She looked toward the door, then back at me. "I've wanted you for 4 years." The words were quiet. No performance. No armor. "I wanted you when you argued with 6 investment bankers because their restructuring plan cut pensions before executive bonuses." Her lips curved faintly. "I wanted you when you told me my last name didn't make a bad contract enforceable." You were furious. I was impressed. You threw a binder at me. Near you. It hit my chair. The chair was poorly positioned. I laughed. Her expression grew serious again. "But you were married, so I stayed away. You hired my firm 3 times. I stayed professionally nearby. That isn't the same thing." It was the best I could do. Her honesty pulled me closer. I placed my hand against her waist. She inhaled sharply but didn't step away. "And now?" I asked. "Now you're hurt." That wasn't my question. It's my answer. Her eyes dropped to my mouth. She leaned forward. So did I. There was less than an inch between us when she stopped. Her breath touched my lips. I waited. Helena closed her eyes for 1 second, then pulled back. "I can't." The rejection should have stung. It didn't. Her hand came up and rested against my cheek. "Not like this," she whispered. "Like what?" "While you're bleeding from someone else." I held her wrist gently. "You don't think I know what I'm doing?" "I think you know exactly what you're doing in every room except this one." "That's insulting." "It's accurate." She smiled sadly. "I won't become the woman you reach for because another one hurt you." You're already more than that. The smile disappeared. Her eyes searched mine. I continued. I don't know what this becomes. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend I do. I'm not asking you to. But when I reached for you, it wasn't because of Madison. The color deepened in her face. Then do it again when this is over. Is that a challenge? It's permission. She stepped back before I could answer. The loss of her warmth felt immediate. After tomorrow, she said. After tomorrow. Her smile returned. Small and private. Then she straightened her blouse and became Helena Whitmore again. We need to prepare the evidence. You're very good at retreating. I'm excellent at timing. We'll see. Yes, she said. We will. That evening, we presented the recordings and server evidence to federal prosecutors. The assistant U.S. attorney, Daniel Mercer, listened without interruption. When the audio ended, he removed his glasses. Mr. Pierce falsified evidence submitted to a federal court, concealed leveraged financing, and may have conspired to defraud public investors. He also established short positions through related entities. I said. Mercer looked at the account records. If we can connect these to Pierce directly, we can freeze the assets. Helena slid another folder across the table. The beneficial ownership certifications are included. Mercer opened it and gave her a long look. Your compliance team works quickly. She pays them well. I said. Helena turned toward me. You objected to their bonuses last quarter. I objected to the calculation method. Mercer glanced between us. I'll pretend this isn't flirting in a federal investigation. Helena's face remained controlled. Mine probably didn't. Mercer continued. The opening bell ceremony is tomorrow morning. We need Pierce to reaffirm the disclosures. If we move tonight, his lawyers may claim the final offering documents were never completed. You want him to sign, I said, and we need Ms. Clark's final certification. Helena's jaw tightened. You're giving Madison another opportunity to commit a crime. Mercer closed the folder. We're giving her an opportunity to tell the truth. I understood the difference. Madison would sign tomorrow, not because she had no choice, because she still believed I would protect her from the consequences. I deliberately allowed word to reach Logan's attorneys that Whitmore had failed to connect him directly to the short-selling accounts. An hour later, Harbalite confirmed the ceremony would proceed. At 9 that night, Madison called. I answered from Helena's kitchen while she attempted to cook steak. Smoke rose from the pan. I reached over and turned down the burner. She frowned and slapped my hand away with a wooden spoon. You're interfering. You're attacking the meat. Madison spoke through the phone. Who's there? Helena. Helena raised one eyebrow. I put the call on speaker. Madison's voice changed. You're staying with her? I'm using her kitchen. He's preventing a fire. Helena said. I didn't ask you. Helena looked at the phone. I'm aware. I took the speaker off. What do you want? Madison? Her tone softened. Tomorrow changes everything. Yes. After we ring the bell, the company will be secure. The lawyers can negotiate. We can talk privately. About what? Us. Helena turned her back and focused too intently on the pan. There is no us. I said. You're angry. I'm informed. Adrian, I know you. You don't throw away 6 years. I didn't. You filed for divorce. After you framed me, I was trying to protect 800 employees. The recording says you were trying to protect the company. Silence. Madison's breathing stopped. What recording? I didn't answer. Her voice sharpened. You accessed our conference system. That violates the injunction. A court-appointed examiner accessed it. Another silence. Then she whispered, you wouldn't use that against me. Helena turned around. She had heard it too. Not fear. Certainty. Madison still believed I belonged to her enough to absorb the damage. I'm still the woman who knows you'll never truly hurt me, she said. My hand tightened around the phone. Helena watched me, her expression calm, but her eyes furious. I answered slowly. That was your final mistake. I ended the call. Helena removed the pan from the stove. Is the steak ruined? I asked. Yes. Good. She stared at me. Why is that good? Because if it had been perfect, I would have assumed you were replaced by an imposter. She tried not to smile. You're remarkably insulting for a man I'm feeding. You've established a dangerous standard. She placed the steak on a plate. It was nearly black on the outside. I picked up a knife. Helena caught my wrist. You don't have to eat it. I looked at her. That sounds like surrender. It's strategic withdrawal. I cut a piece. It was almost raw in the middle. This steak has experienced 2 different climates. Her lips parted in outrage. I laughed. Then she laughed too. The sound broke the last of the tension Madison's call had left behind. We ate around the burned parts. At one point, Helena reached across the counter and wiped sauce from the corner of my mouth with her thumb. She froze after doing it. So did I. Her thumb remained against my lower lip. I turned my face slightly and pressed a brief kiss to the inside of her wrist. Her eyes widened. That wasn't a full kiss. I said, no. So it doesn't violate your timing policy. Her cheeks turned bright red. You're exploiting a loophole. I'm a lawyer. You're impossible. But distracting? She pulled her hand back. Extremely. She walked away with the plates before I could see how much she was smiling. The next morning, Helena stood beside me while I adjusted my cuff links. She had chosen a dark red suit instead of her usual black. I noticed immediately. You changed colors. She looked down at herself. It's a suit. It's red. I'm familiar with colors. You wear black when you're angry. I wear black often. Exactly. She picked up my tie and stepped closer. You tied this badly. I tied it normally. You did it without looking. She loosened the knot and retied it. Her face was composed, but her fingers moved more slowly than necessary. Are you nervous? I asked. No. You've redone the knot 3 times. It was wrong 3 times. I placed my hands lightly on her waist. Her fingers stopped. Adrian, yes. We have to leave. I know. You're making that difficult. I thought I was only distracting. She looked up. The confidence in her eyes faded into something warmer. Come back with me after this. It wasn't an order. It sounded almost like a request. To the penthouse? Yes. The guest room? Her cheeks colored. We'll negotiate sleeping arrangements later. That sounds promising. It wasn't meant to. I leaned closer, but stopped before kissing her. After tomorrow became today. Her breath caught. Yes. Then after this. She nodded. After this. We arrived at the New York Stock Exchange 20 minutes later. Madison stood on the platform in a white suit. Logan stood beside her, smiling for the cameras. When Madison saw me with Helena, the smile she had practiced disappeared. Logan approached us. You came to watch your wife succeed without you. My former wife. The court hasn't finalized it. It will. He glanced at Helena. You really think hiding behind Whitmore makes you powerful? Helena stepped forward. I touched her hand. She stopped. This was mine. I looked at Logan. I didn't come to watch Madison succeed. His smile tightened. Then why are you here? I adjusted the cuff Helena had fixed. To find out which one of you gets escorted out first. The countdown began on the monitors. 10, 9, 8. Logan turned toward the cameras. Madison raised her hand toward the bell. 7, 6. The main doors opened. SEC enforcement officers entered first. Behind them came FBI agents and 2 attorneys from the U.S. Attorney's Office. 5. The exchange director lowered his hand. 4. The countdown stopped. The room erupted with questions. Logan's face went blank. Madison looked at me. I opened the folder in my hand. Inside was a federal asset freeze order signed less than an hour earlier. Helena's fingers found mine. This time, neither of us let go. Logan stared at the agents moving toward him. What did you do? He demanded. I met his eyes. The one thing Madison was certain I would never do. He looked from me to the federal officers. I smiled. I stopped protecting the people who sacrificed me. The FBI agent reached Logan before he reached the exit. Logan Pierce. Step away from the platform. Logan's smile vanished. You're interrupting a registered securities offering. The agent held up his credentials. We're aware. Madison stood beside the bell, with one hand still raised. She looked from the agents to me, then down at the folder under my arm. What is this? She demanded. The exchange director stepped between her and the podium. The offering has been suspended. You can't suspend it. Logan jerked his arm away when an agent tried to guide him back. The disclosures were approved. The final certification was filed this morning. Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel Mercer entered behind the enforcement team. That certification is one reason we're here. Logan's eyes moved toward Mercer, then toward the doors. He was calculating distance, authority, and liability. Men like Logan never panicked first. They searched for someone else to sacrifice. His gaze settled on Madison. You signed the management representations. Madison stared at him. You told me they were standard. They are standard. Mercer opened a file. They're also made under penalty of federal law. The reporters had been pushed behind a security line, but their cameras remained aimed at us. The Harbolite directors stood together, whispering urgently. Madison came toward me. Adrian, make them stop. Helena's fingers tightened around mine. I looked at Madison. 4 days earlier, That request might have worked. She knew it. That was why she had asked. You should speak to your attorney. I said. Her face changed. Don't do this here. You chose here. I didn't know Logan had. Mercer raised his voice. Ms. Clark, do not discuss the substance of the investigation without counsel. Logan laughed bitterly. Now she needs counsel? He turned to the agents. This entire investigation was manufactured by Adrian Walker. He stole Harbolite's files and handed them to Whitmore. Naomi Feld stepped forward. No confidential Harbolite material was used to obtain the asset freeze order. Logan pointed at me. He had access for years. I had legal access. I said, until Madison removed me from the contracts you wanted hidden. You're her husband. Not for much longer. Madison flinched. Logan continued as if he hadn't heard me. He was jealous. He tried to block the IPO because he couldn't control her anymore. The accusation had sounded persuasive on television. It sounded weaker with federal agents standing around him. Mercer nodded to a technician. The monitors behind the opening bell platform changed. The Harbolite logo disappeared. A corporate structure chart appeared in its place. I stepped forward. Pierce Meridian represented that it would contribute $150 million of committed capital to Harbolite. Logan's attorney pushed through the crowd. My client will not participate in this presentation. He doesn't have to. Mercer said, the grand jury materials are already preserved. I continued, the money was not committed capital. It was borrowed through 7 related entities, secured by overlapping collateral, and due within 6 months. The display changed to show the transfers. A director near Madison whispered, those are Harbolite properties. Yes, I said, including 2 properties Pierce Meridian did not yet own and 3 it pledged more than once. Logan's attorney stepped in front of him. We deny that characterization. Then you'll enjoy the next page. The screen showed the offshore consulting agreements. After the offering, I said, more than $80 million was scheduled to leave Harbolite through advisory fees, brand development charges, and executive consulting payments. One of the underwriters swore under his breath. Another turned on Logan. You disclosed $12 million. Logan ignored him. Complex transactions always look suspicious when stripped of context. I agree. I nodded to the technician. The short-selling accounts appeared. So let's add context. The room became silent. The accounts had been established through 2 funds controlled by Pierce Meridian partners. They would earn hundreds of millions if Harbolite's stock collapsed after listing. Madison looked at Logan. You said those were hedges. They were. Against my company? Against market exposure. I changed the screen again. The side letter appeared. If Harbolite traded below $11 for 20 consecutive days, Pierce Meridian gained the right to appoint a majority of the board and trigger secure debt remedies. Madison's breathing became shallow. You said that clause protected the investment. Logan finally lost patience. It did. It gave you my company. It gave me control if you failed. The words left his mouth before his attorney could stop him. Several reporters shouted questions. Madison grabbed Logan's sleeve. You planned for the stock to fall. He pulled free. I planned for every possibility. You planned to make it fall. Don't become emotional now. Madison recoiled as if he had struck her. I had heard that tone before. It was the same one Logan used whenever she hesitated. Calm, superior, designed to make her ashamed of her own instincts. The difference was that she had once accepted that tone from him because it came wrapped in praise. Now the praise was gone. Mercer stepped forward. The short accounts, hidden debts, and false collateral certifications support charges of securities fraud and wire fraud. Logan's attorney raised both hands. My client will surrender voluntarily after we review the warrant. An agent turned Logan around. You can review it downtown. Logan resisted just enough to make every camera catch it. This is Whitmore retaliation. He snapped. Helena wanted Harbolite's assets. Helena released my hand and stepped beside me. Her expression was cold enough to silence the room. If I wanted Harbolite's assets, she said, I would have purchased them before you buried them under fraudulent debt. Logan sneered. You expect people to believe this is business? You've been obsessed with him for years. The reporters reacted immediately. Helena's jaw tightened. I placed my hand at the small of her back. Her body went still. Logan noticed. So did Madison. I looked at him. The difference between you and Helena is that she never needed to weaken someone before standing beside them. His face hardened. Enjoy being her employee. I will. Helena glanced at me. I added, the benefits are unusual. A few people laughed. Color touched Helena's cheeks. but her voice remained sharp. You have not completed your probationary period. Then I'll improve my performance. Her mouth almost curved before she forced it flat. Logan was led away. He looked back at Madison. Do not say anything without Pierce Meridian counsel. Madison stared at him. Your counsel? Our interests are aligned. No, she whispered. They aren't. Logan's expression turned contemptuous. You signed everything. Madison went pale. There it was. The final sacrifice. He had never intended to protect her any more than she had protected me. Mercer approached Madison. Ms. Clark, you are not under arrest at this time. You are required to remain available and surrender your passport. At this time, she repeated, your level of cooperation will matter. She looked at me again. I saw the expectation return. Adrian fixes things. Adrian negotiates. Adrian absorbs the damage and calls it love. I opened the last file. There's one more piece. Madison's eyes widened. Adrian. The technician started the recording. Her own voice filled the room. What happens to Adrian if we put his name on it? Logan answered. A fine. Maybe a suspension. Then came Madison's question about prison. Then Logan's pressure. Then her decision. Do it. The company comes first. The recording ended. No one moved. Madison covered her mouth. The Harbolite directors stepped away from her one by one. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. You recorded me? The conference system did. You had no right. A court-appointed examiner recovered it. I was scared. So was I. Logan told me you would be fine. You knew the contract wasn't mine. I thought he could control the investigation. You thought I could survive whatever happened. She took a step toward me. I never wanted you in prison. You were willing to risk it. I was trying to save the company. I looked toward the directors. Harbolite's chairman was already speaking to counsel. Within minutes, they convened an emergency meeting beside the trading floor. The vote did not take long. Madison was suspended as chief executive and removed from all access to company funds. The company she had sacrificed me to protect was taken from her before the opening bell ever rang. She watched the board's secretary collect her credentials. This is my company. The chairman shook his head. It belongs to the shareholders you misled. Madison pressed a hand against her forehead. Helena moved closer to me but did not speak. She didn't celebrate. She didn't use the moment to remind me she had been right. Her silence made me trust her more than any victory speech could have. Mercer handed me a letter. The U.S. Attorney's Office is withdrawing the allegation concerning the land transaction. The evidence establishes that your signature was forged. I read the first line, then handed it to Naomi. No relief came immediately. Maybe I had spent too many years anticipating disasters to recognize when one ended. Helena touched my wrist. The bruising had begun to fade. It's over, she said quietly. Not entirely. Her gaze moved toward Madison. No, she said, but your part is. Reporters began calling my name. One asked whether Helena had saved me. I looked at her. She stepped away from the microphones. She was giving me the answer. She didn't save me, I said. She gave me the resources to defend myself and never once asked me to become smaller in exchange. Helena's eyes softened. Another reporter called out, Are you confirming a personal relationship? I smiled. I'm confirming she makes terrible pasta. The reporters laughed. Helena stared at me in disbelief. That is not relevant, she said. It was a direct answer. It wasn't. A reporter asked her whether she planned to respond. Helena lifted her chin. He ate 2 servings. I had just left police custody. You also ate the leftovers. That was under executive pressure. Her cheeks turned pink as the room laughed again. For the first time, I didn't mind that cameras were recording something personal. I had spent years hiding my value to preserve Madison's pride. Helena never asked me to hide anything, not even the way I looked at her. The charges against Logan expanded over the next 3 weeks. Investigators found falsified collateral reports, hidden offshore fees, and messages instructing employees to alter my access logs. Pierce Meridian collapsed before the month ended. Harbolite entered emergency restructuring. Several investors contacted me directly and asked whether I would return to stabilize it. I declined. I had spent enough of my life rebuilding a company for people who believed my work made me disposable. Whitmore was different. On my first official day, without a court order hanging over me, I entered Helena's office and placed a contract on her desk. She looked at the signature page. What is this? My revised employment agreement. You revised your own agreement? You told the board I was difficult. I said invaluable. Grant told me what you said when you thought I couldn't hear. Her eyes narrowed. Grant discusses confidential board matters too freely. I added an equity provision. She scanned the page. This makes you a partner in every asset strategy division you build. That's the idea. It also gives you independent authority to reject acquisitions approved by the board. Only if the debt structure threatens employees, minority investors, or protected assets. Helena leaned back. You're demanding the power to overrule me. I prefer protect you from expensive mistakes. She picked up her pen. You assume I'll sign. You created an executive position overnight and announced it before asking me. I've learned from you. Her mouth curved. She signed. Then she held out the pen. You signed too. I did. She looked at the two signatures. Now you can't claim you're only here because I rescued you. I never claimed that. No, but other people will. Do you care? I care what you believe. I moved around the desk. She watched me approach, her confidence slowly giving way to caution. Helena, yes. After this, her breath caught. She remembered. So did I. She stood. You've had a difficult month. That sounds like another delay. I'm being responsible. You were more decisive at the police station. You were wearing handcuff marks. I was angry. You're attractive when you're angry. Her cheeks colored. That is not an appropriate comment to make to the chairwoman. Then respond as the woman who kept a suit for me for 4 years. She looked toward the open office door. I walked over and closed it. When I turned back, she had folded her arms. You're very confident for a man still sleeping in my guest room. That's the second issue I intend to address. Her eyes widened slightly. I stopped in front of her. I'm not reaching for you because Madison hurt me. Helena's expression softened. I know. I'm reaching for you because you saw me before any of this happened. Her arms lowered. You saw what I did. You respected the reasons I did it. And when I had nothing useful to give you, you still came to the station. You were always useful. That was almost romantic. It was practical. Of course. I placed one hand against her cheek. She leaned into it before catching herself. I'm still not good at this. She whispered. At what? Wanting something I can't control. You can control me. Her eyes narrowed. That sounds dangerous. Within negotiated limits. I'll need them in writing. Later. I kissed her. For 1 second. She didn't move. Then her hands closed around my jacket and pulled me closer. The restrained woman who had stopped herself in the conference room disappeared. Helena kissed like she handled negotiations that decisive once the decision was made. When we separated, she kept hold of my lapels. Her face was red, but she tried to sound composed. That was acceptable. Acceptable? Above expectations. I may need a formal performance review. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. I can schedule one. I kissed her again. This time, she smiled against me. Someone knocked. Helena pulled away and straightened my tie with unsteady fingers. Come in. She called. Grant opened the door, saw us standing too close, and stopped. The restructuring committee is ready. Helena nodded. We'll be there in 5 minutes. Grant looked at my crooked collar. Should I make it 10? 5. Helena said coldly. He left smiling. She looked at me. You embarrassed me. You kissed me back. That information is confidential. I'll draft an agreement. She caught my tie before I could move away. Adrian. Yes. You're still coming home with me tonight. I covered her hand with mine. Is that an order? Her confidence returned. Yes. Guest room? Her face turned red again. We'll discuss that after the meeting. I'd like the agenda in advance. She pulled me closer by the tie. The agenda is confidential too. Madison came to my office 2 months later. She had lost control of Harbolite. The board was negotiating a restructuring that would leave her with a minority stake and no executive authority. Because she cooperated against Logan. Prosecutors had not charged her yet. Civil lawsuits were another matter. She looked thinner. Her expensive suit hung loosely from her shoulders. No assistant announced her. She stood in my doorway and stared at the Whitmore title on the wall. You have a larger office than Helena. She says mine requires more room for my ego. You're joking with her now. I do many things with her now. Madison flinched. I regretted the cruelty for half a second. Then I remembered her voice on the recording. The company comes first. She entered and closed the door. I came to apologize. You already sent a letter. You didn't answer. It didn't require an answer. She sat without being invited. I was wrong about Logan. Yes. I was wrong about the debt. Yes. And I was wrong about you. I waited. Tears filled her eyes. I thought you were holding me back because you needed me to depend on you. I warned you because the documents were dangerous. I know that now. You knew some of it then. She lowered her head. I wanted the listing. You wanted the applause. Her jaw trembled. I spent years feeling like everyone respected you more. I never asked you to compete with me. You didn't have to. Investors called you before they called me. Lenders relaxed when you entered a room. Even my board asked whether you had reviewed decisions. So I stayed away. I thought that meant you were weak. The admission was almost a whisper. I leaned back. No, you needed me to be weak so you could feel stronger. She covered her face briefly. I thought after the IPO, we could fix everything, including the criminal record you gave me. I would have hired lawyers. I laughed once. She looked up. You really believe money could repair it? I believed you would understand. That was the problem. I stood. You believed I would always understand, always forgive, always take the damage because I loved you. I did love you. Maybe. She began crying harder. I still do. I felt sadness. No temptation. No hope. That was how I knew the marriage was truly over. You don't lose someone because you wanted success. I said, you lose them when success demands a sacrifice and you decide they're the easiest person to offer. Madison wiped her face. Helena is using you. The office door was partly open. I saw Helena stop outside. She had heard. Madison followed my gaze. She collects companies, properties, people. You think you're different? Helena's face revealed nothing. She took one step back, ready to leave. She was giving me privacy, giving me a choice. I walked past Madison. Helena. She stopped. I took her hand. Her fingers closed around mine immediately, though surprise flashed across her face. Madison stared at us. I looked at her. Helena had enough power to destroy Harbolite in one phone call. She wanted to. Helena glanced at me. I still occasionally want to. I almost smiled, but she didn't. I said, because I asked her not to. Madison stood. That doesn't prove she loves you. No, this does. I looked at Helena. She never asked me to sacrifice myself to prove I loved her. Helena's expression softened. She spoke to Madison without triumph. He didn't choose me because I had more power than you. Madison pressed her lips together. He chose me. Helena continued. Because I never treated him as expendable. Madison looked at our joined hands. For the first time, she understood. She hadn't lost to Helena's money. She had lost to respect. The divorce is final. I said, I won't interfere with the civil cases. I also won't protect you from them. Madison nodded slowly. Is that all? Yes. She walked toward the door. Then looked back. I hope she knows what she has. Helena answered before I could. I knew before you did. Madison closed her eyes briefly and left. Helena waited until the elevator doors shut. Then she looked at me. That was unnecessarily possessive. You announced me as your chosen man on television. That was corporate communication. I'm adopting your management style. You're doing it badly. I pulled her closer. Should I return to the guest room? Her cheeks colored. You haven't slept there in 6 weeks. I've been maintaining appearances. For whom? The housekeeper. She found your watch beside my bed. That could mean anything. She also found your shirt. Less ambiguous. Helena pressed her forehead against my chest, laughing despite herself. For a woman who frightened entire boards, she became remarkably easy to embarrass when we were alone. I kissed the top of her head. She wrapped her arms around me. Are you all right? She asked. Yes. You didn't hesitate. About Madison? She nodded. No. Helena looked up. Good. That sounded jealous. It was an objective observation. You're terrible at lying. I'm excellent at it. Your ears are red. She covered them with both hands. I laughed until she grabbed my tie and kissed me to stop me. 1 year later, Whitmore completed its largest global expansion. We acquired 6 European resorts, restructured 3 Asian hotel groups, and created an employee ownership program that the board had initially called impossible. Helena called it expensive. I called it sustainable. We argued for 4 hours and then signed the plan together. At the private celebration dinner, Grant raised a glass to the 2 people who turned every board meeting into a marital dispute before they were married. Helena nearly choked on her champagne. We are not married. Grant nodded. Yet, she glared at him. I lifted my glass. He values continued employment less after drinking. Several directors laughed. One of Helena's older relatives asked, and who inherits all this when the 2 of you finally stop negotiating? Helena had consumed exactly 2 glasses of champagne. That was one more than she could handle. She placed her glass on the table and answered with the solemn confidence of someone announcing a merger. Adrian will be the father of my children. The entire table went silent. Grant slowly lowered his drink. Helena blinked. I turned toward her. When did I agree to that? Her face turned red from her neck to her forehead. She looked around the table, realized what she had said, and attempted to recover. You may refuse. Really? Of course. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. I would never force you. I leaned closer. Then I refuse. Her confidence collapsed. You do. I refuse to keep sleeping in the guest room. She stared at me. You haven't slept in the guest room for 11 months. I want the policy officially changed. Understanding appeared slowly, then relief, then embarrassment. The directors were trying not to smile. Helena stood, grabbed my tie, and pulled me toward her. This request is approved. I caught her waist. What about the children? Her face became even redder. That matter remains under strategic review. Do I get input? Limited input. That doesn't sound like a partnership. She narrowed her eyes. You may submit a proposal privately. How soon? Adrian. Tonight? The entire table laughed. Helena kissed me anyway. 1 year earlier, Madison had packed my life into 4 suitcases and watched police officers lead me away. I thought I had lost my marriage, my reputation, and every future I had built. Instead, I learned that love was not measured by how much pain a man could absorb without leaving. It was measured by whether the person beside him respected the parts of him that refused to break. Madison had believed my loyalty made me disposable. Helena never asked me to prove my love through sacrifice. She cooked terrible food. She kept a suit in my size for 4 years. She stood outside a police station when no one else came. She had the power to take everything from me. Yet all she ever asked that first night was for me to stay. So I did. Not because an heiress saved me. Because, for the first time, I had found a woman strong enough to love me without needing me to become weak.